So now, officially, welcome. I'm really happy you're joining us tonight for this conversation. It's not a webinar, it's not a workshop. It's a kind of fireside chat, and I titled it Shedding Skins, Music, Freedom, and the Courage to Change. We'll spend about an hour together touching on questions that I think many musicians quietly carry. This meeting is being recorded. It will likely be shared with people who couldn't make tonight, just so you know. And while we're getting settled, I'd love to hear from you in the chat where you're calling in from. And if you like, if you're a musician, share what instrument you play, or voice is an instrument as well. So it would be nice to know where you all are. So feel free, if you're willing, to drop something in the chat. Latika's unwell. I hope you'll be better. A rock violin. Jane from Somerset, violinist. Anita from Berlin. Melissa, violinist from Serbia. You can follow the chat. I will, for those of you who don't know me, probably it's just for those who will listen later, because I think I know every one of you. I'll introduce myself briefly. I'm Medea Bindewald. I'm a harpsichordist. I'm a music educator. I'm a coach. And I founded In Tune Coaching in 2024 to help musicians create more sustainable lives, to honor both their art and their well-being. So I see myself as a musician's well-being coach. And in addition to that, it's very close to my heart to work towards a change in the music industry, in the music world. And I think that's where Alina and I meet. I'm advocating for a shift that goes away from competition and evaluation towards collaboration and each person's unique contribution. I offer one-to-one coaching. I've started to facilitate group workshops, and I'm also doing things for the Needs-Based Coaching Institute where I trained. And my guest tonight is Alina Pogostkina, whom many of you know. I met Alina through her mindful music making community, where I attended retreats and where I was a member for a couple of years until it went into, let's say it's asleep for now. Maybe Alina is going to talk about it later. Alina has extensive experience as a performer. She's been starting out at the age of 5. She's been playing solos with the orchestra from the age of 7. She won the 2005 Sibelius Competition, and she performed with renowned orchestras and conductors on the world's biggest stages. She also, since 2023, I think, has held a position as a violin professor at the Hochschule für Musik in Basel. Now, earlier this year, I came across a post Alina had written to her followers, a farewell to performing on the world's big stages. And I was moved when I read this, because this is such a big decision and it's such a courageous step. Alina, you've been open to speak about both the beauty of music and the suffering that can come along with life as a professional musician. And I know that many musicians carry similar struggles. So I'm extremely grateful that you've agreed to having this conversation. Welcome, Alina.
Thank you.
Before we dive in, I've got one thing I want to make clear from the very beginning, and this is, I don't want this evening to be a prompt to give up performing. Please don't get me wrong. It's not about following anyone else's path. This is an invitation to start an exchange and an invitation to listen to yourselves and to own your life as a musician. We'll have space for questions from you towards the end. If you like, you can drop them in the chat. I've got Sonia who has, Sonia, give us a wave, please. Thanks. Who has agreed to look after you whilst I'm talking, so she may be monitoring. She's going to monitor the chat for us. I think this is the housekeeping done with. And if there's no protest, I will just start right now. I think we're good to go. So Sonia, if you'd like to spotlight Alina and me. Yes, wonderful. Wonderful. Now, I've prepared a number of questions to inspire our conversation, Alina. With some of my questions, I may touch on vulnerable topics, and my invitation to you is to only answer what feels right for you to answer. And it's always okay to say no. When you posted your announcement about stopping performing, you titled it a goodbye. And a goodbye can come with all sorts of emotions. Often there's sadness. There can equally be relief or hope, or maybe the sense of a necessary closure. And I wouldn't be surprised if this emotional cocktail around this decision of yours is kind of entailing them all and more. As you're leaving your life as a performer behind Alina, what are you grateful for?
So I really love how you described it just now. It's really exactly this mix that you just, all those emotions and experiences you just named. It's really this incredible mix. I went through a lot of grief also, letting go of this life that I lived. And by saying goodbye and letting go of this, what really came up for me was not just all the resistance and all the things that I knew I had to let go of, but also the gratitude for an incredible richness of just the aliveness of the life I lived, all the travels, all the amazing people I met, and also the depth of emotional experience that I could have with the music. So I had incredibly intense and deep experiences, and I think maybe the most important one, so there is the connections with people, with other musicians, and the emotional connection through music, but I think the most important one for me was the connection to the divine, to God. It was really like there was like a window when I played. It didn't always happen, but it happened sometimes. And I played, and I felt like I'm channeling something. Some energy was moving through me, and I wasn't there anymore. I was still there as a witness, but I was kind of out of the way a little bit. I was just watching this happening through me, and these were the most beautiful experiences where I felt so full of love and so blessed to be able to not only experience this, but also to share this with my public and with everybody around me, with the orchestra, with the conductor. And these experiences were really very, very special experiences in my life. And I was always looking for them. I was always looking for that spiritual connection and that kind of flow on stage to get out of the way, so music can just happen and be this gift for the people. So I think that is what I what I'm most grateful for, that I could experience that, but also incredible musical collaborations and ecstatic moments on stage, by just the incredible connections and emotional depth and very human experiences that I also had. And there were lots of roller coasters, lots of fear, lots of happiness, lots of just all of it. It's so intense for us as musicians, and I was very lucky. I mean, my job I was most of the time working as a soloist, so it also has negative aspects of that as well. There's a lot of loneliness, there is a lot of being on your own.
Yes, we'll move
So,
into that in a moment as well, Alina.
yeah.
But I would want just to celebrate a little bit this kind of the smile, the radiance that came from you as you were talking about your experiences, the positive ones, the ones that are sublime and touching on spiritual dimensions. And I think many of us know this kind of sense that music is something that can be so connecting, and that is kind of connecting us with something that is bigger than ourselves. Yeah, which is so wonderful. And I totally get this emotional cocktail. And yes, I want to congratulate you that you acknowledge that there is the need for grief and that you're giving this space as well. When I was preparing for our conversation, I was thinking of a children's book. I don't know whether you know it. It's a German children's book called 𝗕𝗏𝗏 mit der Tröte.
Yeah.
Kannst du das? No, you don't know it. Erwin is a jungle animal. I looked the word up, it's a coati. It's a Nasenbär is the German word for it. And Erwin plays a trumpet on his nose, basically. And the story is he gets discovered and he's being made famous. And he goes on world tour. And on that tour he discovers how exhausted he is, how lonely he is, and how much he is longing to see his friends. So he stops it all. He says, I'm no longer doing this. He returns to his island and finds meaning in making music with his friends. And the book is written in a way, it's written for adults as well. It's got this humorous, heartwarming and slightly satirical component to it. Yeah, and you were just touching on that matter of the loneliness, which is a topic in there as well. Yeah. What are other things that you won't miss about a performer's life, Alina? What are you relieved to let go?
I have to say, for all the decades, I did work a lot on myself. I did a lot of therapy. I really tried to face all my trauma linked to being a child prodigy and having had a lot of pressure in my childhood from my father and also later on just through the music scene. But even though I did so much work and even though I founded Mindful Music Making, which was all about liberating musicians from pressure, from competition, bringing them more into agency, more into connection with themselves. Even though I did all that work for myself and for others, I never, and I can only see that now that I left this behind me, I never fully managed to step out of the pressure, like vicious circle of even though I really distanced myself from competition thinking, from I really tried to not be part of this paradigm of I have to prove myself, I have to do more, I have to do better, I'm not good enough. I was really trying to step out of that, and I think I managed quite well. But now, having left this behind, I feel such a relief of not being in that environment of high pressure and high performance anymore. So even though I was so conscious about those topics, standing in front of a big symphony orchestra and playing on the big stages, I couldn't liberate myself fully from this expectation and from that high expectations. It's just, you have to be not perfect, but as perfect as possible in the moment. You have to perform, you have to give your best, and you're being watched and you're being judged. Even though, of course, most people just enjoy music, they don't really judge you. I think it's more in our minds, but just this whole structure of how the music world is set up and how it's functioning.
Yes, and I think it is, sorry to interrupt you, I think it is really, it's conditioning us, it's impacting us in a way that we can't, that our intellectual or rational understanding of what is going on can't prevent us from being the same experiences being triggered again.
Yeah.
So this kind of experience that you mentioned about being in front of the audience, the pressure is on again.
And my agency, yes, and you know.
And I assume, you know, just also acknowledging that that past as a child prodigy makes you carry another load in addition to that, because expectations were particularly high, and you have come particularly far. Yeah. And you also mentioned the word, the perfection that is expected, and this isn't actually a prepared question, but I had somebody suggesting this as a question to me, to say, you know, do you think, Alina, that the concept of perfection in classical music is causing problems?
Oh, absolutely. It's so damaging. I see it with my students. When they're so hard on themselves, and there is always this, it's never good enough. And of course, there is a fine line between mastery and excellence, and devotion and discipline, and perfectionism. I think it's not the same thing. I believe perfectionism is impossible because we're human. We can always kind of want to get better and do our best and want to grow. I think it's completely natural and healthy to want to grow. But I just had this conversation with one of my students the other day. She said, I'm not good enough. I need to do better. I need to become a more, what did she say? Not experienced, but kind of wise, erfahren, reif. Yeah, she said exactly. Mature musician. I need to be more mature. I need to be more this and more that. And while she's thinking that she needs to be more of something else, she's not really present to who she is right now. And she's a beautiful young woman who has, in every stage of our life, we have so much to give. It's like saying you as a person are only going to be valuable when you are 35 or when you are 50 or when you are whatever, you know. But all of life, it's so precious. The childhood, the teenage years, every stage of life is beautiful, and we have something to give. So I think it doesn't matter how good your technique is, where you stand in your education, if you just started or if you already play for 50 years. We always have something to give through art. We always have something to give through music, and it's beautiful because we are sharing who we are in that moment, the experience of who we are in that moment. And the perfectionism is a bit like it's like that carrot in front of the donkey's head, you know, this image that they hang this carrot and it just keeps walking forward. It's just you never reach it. It's never there. Of course you can reach kind of external perfectionism, but I know from having talked to many of my colleagues who have huge careers that most of them have huge self-doubt, and they feel like they need to hold on to it. They have to hold on to their careers, otherwise the young people, the next generations, they will come and they will be even better and they will take their place away. Like, even if you are the most famous person, I know really quite very famous musicians, and they're so vulnerable and insecure because they live in that mindset of, I still need to prove myself. Even though they have these careers, they continue to proving themselves, and it's never complete. It's always continuing.
You're just giving a fantastic summary of all these things that I am observing as well, and that I experience in working with musicians. And I mean, also people who are not professional musicians do know the perfectionist, but I don't know any musician who doesn't have a strong perfectionist. And I like to think of how in internal family systems that I know we have talked about that book of Richard Schwartz's book, what's it called? Something about good parts. It's no bad parts. Thank you.
Bad parts, yeah.
I'm thinking the perfectionist in that kind of it's a kind of unhealthy way of wanting to help. And in internal family systems, there is also the kind of healthy way, and it's nice if we can learn to kind of train our perfectionists to become to take on a slightly different role. Yeah.
I think we can learn a lot from martial arts, actually, because I'm curious about the links between martial arts and classical music, because I believe that we have a lot in common, because they are also achieving very high level of mastery, but there is the spiritual aspect, there is the personality training that you are kind of training to get your ego out of the way. And I think we are missing this part in the classical music. There's too much about me, and I need to be better, and I need to prove myself, instead of just allowing the divinity and the incredible beauty of and truth of music, of art, to happen in the moment and to just be available for that. I think in martial arts they really, I mean, I don't want to idealize that, I'm sure they have their own problems, but but I feel like in martial arts they have this approach of discipline, but at the same time this spirituality that is very important, that it's not about you. And I think in the musical world, and I'm coming back to your question, what am I not missing, is there so many egos, like ego is so, it's quite big in the musical and classical music world. I feel like people are taking themselves very seriously, and they think they're very important or not important enough, and there is this concept of specialness, and this is something I feel so happy to have left this behind me. And this has to do with trauma, this has to do with a very unhealthy environment, and also I feel education, where it's about, if you work hard enough, you might be one of the chosen and the special ones, and if not, you're not special, and you're not one of the special ones. And there is this thing of looking up to the ones who are special, and it's not really putting people, like, it's about how special you are. It's not about how special God and the world and love and art is, which is coming through us, as you said so beautifully in the beginning. We all have our unique expression in life. It doesn't necessarily need to be music, but we all have it, and it doesn't matter how perfect we are. We all have it. We are already divine and perfect.
Yes, and everybody is already special, and we don't have to compete about who is more special than somebody else. But we do get this in our education, and I have my own story in the background there as well, and especially with playing an instrument that was kind of rare in the environment where I grew up. So I was the only harpsichordist in my class, the only harpsichordist at my school, the only harpsichordist in my town. And of course then this kind of being specialness is kind of pushed onto you, and it's expected from you. Then I started university, and my professor made me feel special because I had started the harpsichord as a child. So I had a different touch, I had a different access to the instrument than people who had studied it after training as a pianist or an organist. So there was an immense pressure around being special. And I'm also now in my 50s now leaving this behind, but it took me really a long time as well. Yeah.
And isn't it beautiful to just give yourself the permission to just be human, to just be normal, so to speak. For me, normal was the scariest thing. I grew up as a child prodigy. I was special from the start. I was raised to be special. I was raised to be outstanding and extraordinary and above others and better than others and all of that. And I'm slowly recovering and healing myself from that, because it's so tiring to always
it's not really human to expect this from anybody, and that's
it's not human. It's very tiring, and it's also not real. It's like putting you on a position where other people automatically are less than, and like, you know, all of that. It's really subconscious, not even very conscious, but like just yesterday I heard someone saying about a musician, I won't tell any names now, but a musician who said to another one, well, A musicians invite A musicians. Like he was talking about how he's inviting people to his festival. And he was already rating like you need to invite A musicians, otherwise you will degrade to like you don't invite B musicians, only B musicians invite B musicians. And like just this way of thinking of ranking,
categorizing, yes, a ranking already, yes, yeah, and it's not healthy, yeah.
It's not healthy at all, and I have to say, for me, just being a normal human being now and raising my kids and being a teacher in a school and all of that, it's very sobering in a very beautiful, healthy way, and I'm happy to let go of all that glamour and specialness that, of course, me with my career, staying like being on the big stages and wearing the beautiful princess dresses and playing the, you know, in big concert halls, it's very inviting for the ego to think that's who I am. That's what makes me lovable. That's what's my worth.
The applause you receive.
Yeah,
yes, for sure.
And then that's me. But who am I if all of that is not there anymore? So that's what many musicians, I think, experience in the Corona pandemic when they couldn't perform, and a lot of musicians went into big crisis, and it was very difficult for them because we identify so strongly with our role and with our music and with our work, and yeah, it's I don't think it's possible to not do it because it's such deep connection with who we are.
Yes, I know. I always I don't want to take anything away from this because there is this beautiful connection, and you grow very close to your instrument, and you have a very special relationship to your instrument and to music. And this is also partly what makes the performances so intense and emotional and beautiful. But I keep posting one of my favorite core messages is you are more than your instrument. Just to remind people who they actually are and that they have a personality, that they have their own unique qualities that they bring, and they can bring them through music. They can also, they can also bring them into their whatever they do, their coaching or their teaching or baking a cake or being with their kids. It's this kind of personal uniqueness that everybody has. To discover who you are is where I think where a lot of feeling comes from. I want to bring the conversation towards a topic that jumped on me when I read the note you wrote to your followers when you announced that you are no longer performing. You wrote you were always looking for freedom but couldn't find it in that role. And this struck me because I suppose there's an assumption that touring the world as a musician comes with a lot of freedom. So I'm curious, what was it about that life that made you feel freedom is out of reach?
Because I never really chose that life. It was something this is very personal. It's not about this specific career, but it's my life story is that my father was my teacher, and my parents were guiding me on this path, and it was clear when I was a child already that would be my path, that I would be a soloist, not just a musician, not even just a musician, but a soloist. It would be very, very determined for my life, who I would be. I didn't do any Abitur, like I didn't do the higher education in school because it wasn't necessary back then to study music. So my father was already like, you don't need that, you just go for music, you just go for studying music. I was talented, and that was a blessing, but it was also my curse because I never got the kind of any other options where it was not even in discussed, or there was no space for it because I played so well. So it was clear that I had to do this. So in a way, I tried to find my freedom within the frame that was created for me by creating mindful music making, by really freeing up my schedule as much as possible and trying to find projects that make me happy. And I managed to find a certain amount of freedom in that, but it was still a life that I didn't choose, and that's why I had to let it go. That was just, if I wanted to find myself outside of that role that my father gave me at age 4, I just didn't manage to step out of it while being in that role. It was just not possible. So
Yes.
that was the
Yes.
freedom I was meaning, and I feel so incredibly free right now, because
Mm.
even though I'm teaching in a Musik Hochschule in a university, and I'm still a bit part of the system, I feel like now as I stepped out of that very clear role that my father saw for me, I can be more me. I can live my life, the life that I'm choosing right now, and this feels really incredible to me. And I think many people in music, it's quite normal, because we start so early that we don't even ask ourselves, especially if we're successful, is that really what I'm choosing? Is that actually what fulfills me and what makes me happy? Is it what I really like, what I actually like doing? I see that in my students when I ask them that, then there is like, they're not ready to answer that. They're not ready to hear it sometimes, because no, it's just what I do. It's just what I need to do. It's clear. It's like, and sometimes it takes some decades until we are ready to face that question. And for me,
I think it
took
does.
a long
Yes,
time.
I work a lot with people in midlife, and it's often about that question:
Yeah.
what is really mine, and what is coming from somewhere else or from somebody else.
Imposed, exactly.
Yes, and it makes so much sense of you explaining this all. And thank you also for making clear that this is a personal thing for you, about this not having had the choice. But there is something that I think a lot of musicians start rather early. I mean, our kind of training starts when we are young, so long before university years, we've already learned what we need to learn. And not having the choice, and then not being mature enough. So feels like this kind of later, the doubts that come later are maybe part of this growing up and becoming
It's
an adult
tricky.
self. Yeah.
It's tricky because we don't really, we have invested already so much of our time and energy into playing an instrument at the age of when we are a teenager or young adults, that it's very confronting to ask yourself, do I actually want to do this? Because it's we already invested so much, and probably our parents invested a lot into us too, and teachers.
Yes.
And there's a lot of around us that is making it very difficult to just say, actually I'm stepping out of this because I feel like doing something else now. It's tricky, but I know it's possible, and people also ask themselves this question and do continue. So I really want to point out that it's not that the music world is something that everybody should leave behind. That's not the message here.
No.
I do have my problems with it, and I do feel like there is a lot of change that needs to come, that I wish to also be part of with my teaching and all of that. But it's a very, as I said before, it's a very personal story of finding what's true for me and finding what makes me happy. And for some people, they're going to be asking themselves this question, and the answer is going to be, this is really what I need to do. This is my expression in life, and I love this so much that even though I hate the whole competition mentality, and even though I hate this and that, I love music so much and I love playing so much that I'm still choosing this life. And I know a lot of people like that too. So
well, there may also be this, my personal experience was I could not imagine a life without the harpsichord. I just could not. So I was worried about studying something else and then not having the time to play the harpsichord. So it wasn't really a choice in that sense, because I needed this instrument. And I think this is also, again, a discussion that touches on identity matters, this kind of being so fused with your instrument. And I'm referring now again to what you wrote in this message to your followers on Facebook, when you said the person you know on stage has shed some skins. This is, by the way, of course, where I borrowed the title from, so it was not my invention. It was really referring to that image of, shedding skins, becoming a new renewal. And I think that external changes like this one are usually preceded by an internal shift. There's something is moving inside, and before anything can change on the outside at all. And I'm wondering, Alina, how your sense of who you are as a musician, now how your professional identity, if you want, has shifted in recent years.
It's difficult to say because, as you said, it was a deep process. It was a long process. It didn't happen from one day to another that I decided that I don't want to do this anymore. I did take the decision when I got the job here in Basel, because it gave me the financial freedom to say, okay, I can pause. I can actually allow myself to pause and to see how I feel. So I did take this 1 year sabbatical to really feel what is the right next step for me. But overall, it was a process of many years, of course. Already in the pandemic time, I felt like many musicians were experiencing like crisis and all of that. I was just so happy to not play.
I can relate.
So I was so happy to not need an excuse to just be at home with my child. Back then I just had my daughter, and not traveling was actually already started being exhausting for me. I was traveling so much, so it was a long process. And actually it's difficult for me to even grasp the concept of my musical identity, because I think my musical identity, as long as I can remember, there was always a struggle with, is that really me? So even as a teenager, I think it started as a teenager, because as a child you don't question your parents, you just do what your parents think is right, and if they see you as that's who you are, then you see yourself as that as well. So I think it starts later in teenage years that you start to question that, and I started to question that. I was already in my teenage years. I was wondering, who am I in this role? Who am I in all this? But I wasn't strong enough, courageous enough, or ready. Maybe it was also not the moment to really step out of that. It was not possible. But my musical identity is somehow very linked to that doubt and to that like search of who am I in all this. So it didn't. That just grew stronger in me over the years. And now that I've let go of that role, I'm actually experiencing this kind of fresh beginning, curiosity, joy, like childlike, like exploration energy of how would it be to just make music for fun, just for myself. I never did that. As a child, I was trained to perform for the others. My father always used to say, your gift, your talent is your responsibility. You have to do that for your audience. So it was never about me in this whole thing. I mean, I was special, but I was special in order to perform for the others.
Yes, there's this German saying like Talent verpflichtet. It's like you get your obligations just delivered as you're talented, you've got to, and it's not for you. It's not a question. And in this sense,
exactly, and in that sense, I was also never free to just explore what music actually feels like when I just have the freedom to just play music for myself. And there is a little bit of, as I said before, this curiosity coming up, and this joy of how is it going to be to explore music without all that pressure, expectation, and that role that I lived in. At the moment, I'm not playing. The instrument, I'm taking it out just to teach. But I already start having these moments when a student comes with a piece I haven't played, and I feel like, oh, I would like to play that. And it's so it's so nice, because it's not because I'm thinking it would be good in that program or I should play there, but it's just like I feel like playing that, and it makes me very happy, because in the last years it was more kind of it became more and more a sense of obligation for performing in music. So
But how wonderful, Alina, is that
I might
to
be
get
even
this
like,
sense of,
yeah.
oh, I want to play, I want to explore this piece. Oh, I want to touch the
Exactly.
violin. I'm really curious about
Yeah.
that. How wonderful to
And I was
gather
missing
this.
that. I was missing that in the last years of my career, and I felt like I can't. I'm not honest if I go on stage and I don't have that curiosity and that joy and that enthusiasm about playing. So I might find my true identity in relationship to music as a musician, as an amateur, as I like to call myself now.
I love that. Let's be amateurs to rediscover this this excitement and this curiosity and this joy in making music. I
really
need to take a note. I'm glad I'm recording this. Here's gold in this conversation, Alina. Another thing I wanted to chip into the conversation here is our nervous system, how we respond to all that pressure, and you named it as one of your reasons wanting to quit performing so that you can learn to live with a regulated nervous system. And understanding the nervous system has been an eye-opener for myself, and I integrate it a lot into the work I do now. My question to you is, what helped you during the time as a performer? What helped you stay regulated or regulate yourself?
I can't say I was very regulated. And I find it so difficult with, I mean, the life I had is also a very specific one. With working as a soloist, very few people do that. Most people are in orchestras or teaching positions or chamber music groups. It's quite unique because they're not like, it's not a lot of musicians doing this job. So people idolize also the soloist life, and they think there's a lot of freedom in that. But actually, there's so much flying around. There is so much. It's very anonymous. You're kind of meeting a conductor in an orchestra. The next day, you're playing the concert, and the next day, you're flying off to the next place. So I think there is more relationship in orchestra and in teaching positions or chamber music groups. I had very little relationships with, and this hopping, this kind of traveling by plane, which I stopped at some point, and I was traveling by train, but it still was very tiring, of course, because it added hours and hours to my trips. But basically, this whole lifestyle of traveling a lot and not being grounded, not being connected to the earth, connected to the land that I'm actually on, not having any relationship to the land I'm on, because I didn't have the time to arrive and to meet the people, to understand the culture I'm in. It's just like this, you're hopping somewhere, you play a concert, and then you hop to the next continent to play another concert. That's not it's very difficult to be regulated because it's a very unnatural life. I don't believe I think we believe we belong as humans, we belong on this, in connection with the earth, with the land, with the community. And that also helps us to regulate. I'm so much more regulated now that I'm in one place. I'm at home with my family. I have a workplace where I go to. So back then, when I was traveling so much, I was trying to help myself with meditation, spirituality. I was reading a lot. I was doing a lot of therapy. I was trying to really look at my topics, at the things that this life is triggering in me. And I think I was dealing quite okay. I was really learning to say no, learning to do less, learning to that more is not better, that earning more money, having more concerts is not going to make me happy. Yeah. So all of these things were very important for me to really embody and to really practice. Yes. Becoming a mother, greatest gift, so grounding, so humbling.
Yes.
Like kicking you out of your ego trips as a soloist, kicking you out of that immediately. Amazing. Yes, I love it. Yeah. So I did as well as I could, but I have to say that if I would choose to still be a performing artist as my main job, I would try to do something more in one place. I don't think it's healthy to fly around the world like that, and I don't think it's healthy for the planet either. So
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It would bring things together to be more centered, to be closer to one place, to have both the co-regulation by being with people,
exactly.
and to co-regulation by being with nature or with the earth, with the ground. Yes. It's so great to speak with you, Alina, and I have got more questions prepared here, and I'm also looking at the time. Maybe one more question so that we can leave a little bit of time for questions from the audience here.
Sure.
That topic that we haven't talked about is training, musical training, your teaching job. I think traditionally music training has focused very much on the artistic side, on playing technique, on interpretation, on the pursuit of excellence, this kind of idea of perfection that we talked about earlier. And I think there is often a very kind of fear-based culture underneath that, students pushing very hard to get it right and to become the best. And I know you have described feeling uncertain about what you're preparing your students for because you're releasing them into this world. But I'm wondering, what do you believe young musicians actually need, even if the music world hasn't caught up yet? What would you wish to give them through the training they receive in music?
Resilience, I would say, if I would have to sum it up in one word. I wish for them to be so connected to themselves that they can actually face all the crap, sorry to say, but all the competition and the manipulation and power games and all of that they can actually stand in their truth and in connection to themselves and not step into that. Because I believe the music world, and I keep saying that to my students, what is the music world? It's the musicians, and you are the next generation, so you are going to shape the music world, you are going to influence it. So the values you bring in is going to influence the music world that we all together create. So I wish to give them trust in themselves and connection to themselves. Whatever they do, I don't believe that the technically best people are going to have the happiest and most successful lives. I see that there are people who are maybe technically less strong than others, but they have such creativity in their and such openness and qualities in their personalities to connect to people, to be creative in creating projects and like working with children, whatever, that for them I'm not worried. And it's not because they're technically the most perfect players, but I see that I wish for them to go out into that world and to follow their own path and to be in connection to what's right for them and what's true for them. That's why we talk a lot in the class. I work with them and I try to give them as much of my expertise as a player. I come from a very solid Russian school, so I can also give them hopefully some solid education on that. But we do talk a lot. I really wish for them to reflect on who they are and what they're doing and where they want to go in their life and why.
Thank you, Alina. Thank you. Resilience and knowing your truth. Yes, and you're so right about this kind of music. The music industry is shaped by people, and I'm hoping also that with the conversation like we're leading today and people listening here, we are already starting to send out little ripples that will ripple out more and more. So I'm hopeful. And I'd like to close this part of the conversation for now and open this room up again to receive maybe some questions from our listeners. So now I suggest that we take the spotlight out for this and have the group on screen again.
There's one question in the chat, Medea.
Okay, I haven't seen the chat. Would you like to read it to us?
Yes, so it's from Anita. She wrote, "Your story, Alina, reminds me deeply of the story of figure skater Alisa Liu, who took the decision to retire at the age of 16 during the pandemic. I have reflected a lot about the experience of prodigies. It seems that practicing has taken a few childhood years from you. Do you feel that you have a need to relive your childhood now, Alina?"
The thing is, when you don't really have a childhood, you don't really know what you're missing. For me, being a child was not a positive experience. So I really don't want to go back there. I don't want to experience anything like that. So I'm so happy to be an adult and to be in charge now. And not to be that it's not up to my parents anymore, how I live my life and what I do with my life. How I think I am, a part of my healing journey, I think, is to be a mom and to create a different experience for my own children and to really give them the space and the freedom that I didn't have, and to see them growing up in the countryside with lots of nature and lots of kind of emotional availability. And that makes me very, very happy. So this is where I feel I'm healing my inner child by seeing my own children being happy and being free. Yeah, I don't feel like I have the need to relive my own childhood.
Does that answer your question, Anita? You've got your hand up. Would you like to comment?
Just comment, because I'm a mum as well, and I'm today is Mother's Day, so
in Germany, right? Yeah.
All the best to you as a mom.
Thank you.
That because you're seeing your children, so it seems to be that you are at distance with your children, but aren't you accessing through your kids the childhood you didn't have?
For sure. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why.
It's really fulfilling to see them having what I couldn't live. Yeah.
Thank you. And all the best.
Thank you.
Any other questions that have come up or that are alive right now? I have one, actually. May I? I wonder, have you had any pushback, now with your decision to step back? Have you experienced anything like, oh, don't throw your talent away, anything in that direction?
From me internally?
Yes,
absolutely not.
From you internally, but also from the outside world?
Oh, from the outside, definitely. I was surprised how many people were encouraging me or applauding me with that post. Like I received so much appreciation and approval. Like people were really admiring me for that step, and I was surprised. I was expecting that people would more be a bit puzzled or surprised or even disturbed by my decision. But before I took that step, I was talking to some colleagues about wanting to stop, and there I did encounter people saying, "But why you can't do this? You have such a great, amazing talent, and you have such a great career. You're like, why would you throw that all away?" And even in the family, and people were like, "Really?" But once I actually did it, people really respected that, and from inside, I was afraid of that I would maybe regret something or anything in this direction, but absolutely didn't happen. I just feel so good about this decision, and it was more difficult in the process while I was still playing and while I was still kind of preparing for my last concerts. I was crying a lot. I had a lot of grief coming up. I had a lot of fear coming up. But now I'm just happy like never before in my life.
That's so nice. And it spoke to, through your post, it also, it sounded very clear, your words, and very much, not like a rebellious teenager said, I'm not doing this anymore, but like somebody who has really, who is starting to tend to your needs and to take them for serious.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. Sonia.
Yeah, Alina, you just said that there were fears coming up before that, and that's totally understandable. So, what kind of fears were it, and how did you manage to manage the fear? So, what was the tipping point when you said, "Okay, my courage is now stronger than my fear"? So, what was that point when you made that decision?
There was no doubt that I needed to take the step, and there was just, I knew that I have to go through the emotions that just come with that. A part of me was dying. It was not just a role that I let go of, but it was a whole self that needed to die. And I knew there's nothing I have to do. I just needed to feel those emotions and have to go through them. I had amazing support. I had a really amazing support by people who are my husband, and also some close friends who know a lot about transitions in life, who were by my side. But I also had a mentor who is specialized on vision quests and these kind of transitions in life. She was helping me and holding space for me. And I was also doing somatic experiencing, which is a body-based trauma therapy, which was also amazing to support the nervous system with this process. So I was just held in going through the grief and the fear. And the fear was about just losing. I mean, I had no idea who I would be on the other side. I felt like I'm dying. I felt like there's not going to be anything left of me, because all I am, I'm letting go of. And at the same time, I knew it's not true anymore. I can't do this any longer. So it was very powerful. It was so powerful that there was not a back and forth in me at all. There was a very clear direction that I had to go this way. And I just needed to process the feelings that were on the way.
Thank you so much, Alina, for going that deep with us today. And I've got a decision to take as a facilitator, and that is, I said this meeting would be an hour, and I can see there are 2 questions in the chat that haven't been addressed. Alina, are you open to overstay for a few minutes, and we'll take these 2 questions and then finish, so no more questions from now on. And if you have to leave, if any of you has to leave because you've planned for an hour, feel free to go, and we'll take these 2 questions. The first one comes here from Maria. Thank you for this amazing conversation. Do you think that older generations of soloists had more freedom and were in a way more devoted to the art of performing?
I have no idea. I really don't know, because I only know my own experience. And I believe the world is becoming faster, and the social media is adding a lot of pressure of comparison on us that maybe back then wasn't existing. This kind of comparing and performing on such a fast tempo, and so everything has to be with filters and perfect, and you have to look perfect, you have to play perfect. I guess there was a bit more humanness back then, but I'm sure that people had their own processes and journeys with this always. So I don't want to put a label on that and to say it's. I really can't generalize it, I think, because I just don't know. I wasn't living back then, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah, I think maybe it touches on the question whether the pressure has increased and the expectations have risen, and maybe there is a little bit of that. I talked to someone lately about the more the recording technologies have been refined, the more the pressure of perfection and has been pushed up and higher. But I would also be careful to generalize and
also
make
I have
a
to
statement.
say it's more complex than that. Of course, these things got stronger, but on the other hand, there's so much more trauma awareness. There is so much more freedom for young people. There's much less power dynamics between teachers and students than it was 2 generations ago, where teachers would be abusing emotionally and even physically, and I don't know what, their students. Like, it was completely normal and nobody would even look there. Like, we had the Me Too movement, we have, a lot has happened, so young people have much more agency and they are invited into more self-responsibility. So I would say not everything got worse. There are also good developments, and yeah, that's why I don't want to generalize that too much.
Last question for today, coming from Katharina. Is it K for Katharina? I think so. No, for Katie. Thank you, Katie. Do you have any thoughts as to why musicians are so... Oh, no, the chat is moving. So reticent, is it? I don't know whether I pronounced the word right. Why musicians are so reticent to speak about difficulties they may be experiencing.
There is a very strong facade in the music industry. I feel like we as artists, we are embodying a certain, almost like a cliche of, we are doing this beautiful art, and we're so privileged to do that in such amazing work. And if you're struggling, it means you're weak, and it means you're not, you might not be invited, you might not get that job, or you might not show yourself in the most capable way. So I think people are afraid to show the human side, show the humanness. There is this very strong facade, I feel, in this industry, that we have to, again, talking about perfectionism, that we have to give a certain image of ourselves in order to be good enough. I think it's a lot about that, again, to be good enough, and to... But I think it's not only music, in the music environment. I believe you can find that in all different environments, that it's difficult for people to admit their humanness, because the world is becoming so demanding and so fast, and there is so much comparison, and everybody's trying to keep up with that and to be good enough and to manage. So people are afraid of showing their humanness, and I think that's a very important point, that actually that's our power. Our humanness is also our uniqueness, and it's we are human beings. We are unique and powerful with all our emotions and processes, and if we really embrace that, we can be so much more grounded and in our life and in our truth, and go out in the world and be someone, instead of trying to fit into other people's expectations. So I'm really inviting musicians to allow a bit more humanness, which I also did in mindful music making, and hopefully we will come back to that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of showing more humanness in general.
You. I love that. I love that, and I think we've seen a lot of humanness tonight in here today, and I look forward to in some way maybe a revival of mindful music making. Push.
Yes, I really hope for that too.
And apart from that, I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank you, Alina, for your words, for your presence here, for your smiles, and for allowing us really to ask all the questions. And I'm grateful to you, Sonja, for looking after me here on the Zoom assistant side. And I'm happy to see some of your faces, of those who are here. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Medea, for hosting this and for the invitation and for everyone to be here. It was really beautiful to have this conversation. Thank you.
And I'd like to invite everyone to unmute themselves and say goodbye in their native language. That would be lovely to hear your voices and say goodbye.
Hab einen schönen Abend, meine Liebe.
Danke.
Danke.
Thank you.
Tschüss.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you so